Boa tarde a todos. Hoje é 16 de junho de 2022, o Identificado mais uma vez fazendo história, uma das grandes estrelas aí da ufologia mundial, figura presente em dezenas de documentários, artigos, programas de TV sobre o assunto. Está aqui conosco hoje para uma live histórica. Somente a gente do Identificado para entrevistar o Michael Shermer, dar voz ao Michael Shermer, mais ninguém. Hoje estamos recebendo o Dr. Michael Shermer, formado em Psicologia e doutor em História da Ciência. É professor universitário e articulista de vários periódicos voltados ao desenvolvimento da ciência. Eu vou passar a palavra agora para o Leonardo.
Passa para o Marco primeiro.
Vou passar para o Marco Seixas. Ele vai dar início à gravação da live em inglês. E em breve essa live será disponibilizada totalmente legendada em português. Espero que vocês, como sempre, farão uma grande gravação, mas uma gravação histórica do Identificado. A bola está contigo, Marco Seixas.
Obrigado, João. Thank you, João. It's a pleasure being here. Mr. Shermer, it's a pleasure and a great honor to welcome you to our channel for this chat. Your skeptical view of the world mysteries in general and events related to those infamous UFOs, currently called UAPs in particular, is similar to our group's view, where we seek to put healthy questioning ahead of irrational beliefs. On behalf of the members of this channel, I welcome you, and please feel free to say hello to our audience and tell us how you started your skeptical journey. I also take the opportunity to ask you the first question. Why do people believe in strange things? Thank you, Mr. Sherman.
Oh, you're welcome. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me on your show. Well, I publish this magazine. It's called Skeptic Magazine. It's a quarterly publication of the Skeptic Society, and this is we take on controversial topics. Not only do we look at UAPs, we did 2 issues ago on aliens among us, and this issue is on trans matters, and the latest issue that came out this week is on abortion. So we're not afraid to take on controversial topics, to say the least. But the UAP one, the UFOs, we've tracked that for the last 30 years. And I find it incredibly interesting subject because, the idea that we could be visited and there could be aliens out there somewhere is incredibly interesting. And so I start off by separating those 2 questions. Are they out there somewhere, and have they come here? And the fact is, if based just on the evidence, we don't know an answer to either one. We don't know if there's anyone out there. We don't have any evidence that they've come here. And so really, it's a big question mark. And my answer is we should keep searching, because the chances of us being the only intelligence in the entire cosmos seems pretty slim, given how many stars with planets there are, trillions and trillions. That they probably are out there, but have they come here is another question. And the evidence for that is so weak, so thin, so fraught with error and human, human error and so on, that it's very unlikely that we've been visited.
Okay, thank you very much. Leonardo, you want to make a question to Mr. Shermer?
Yes, please. I do. Thanks for being here, Mr. Shermer. My first question is about paranormal events. Some researchers, like Jacques Vallée, believe that UFO phenomena are inside the paranormal, and maybe they reflect another reality or dimensions. Because the UFO phenomenology is ephemeral in most cases, it seems like phantasmagoric apparitions, religious miracles, and so on. What do you think about that?
Well, not much, because it doesn't do anything for us. We can't. How do you study that? If you say, that aliens are among us, we are being visited, and I say, where's the evidence? And you say, there is no evidence because they're invisible or they're secret or they're in another dimension, and that's why you can't measure them. Then where do you go with that? There's nothing to do with that. It's just hand waving. This reminds me of what I call Sagan's dragon from Carl's book, Demon Haunted World, in which he kind of recounts this little vignette in which I tell you I have a dragon in my garage. Would you like to see it? And you go, yeah, that'd be cool. If dragons really existed, that would be amazing. So I open the garage door and you look in and there's no dragon in there. There's some bicycles and a ladder, some paint cans, some tools, but there's no dragon. And you go, where's the dragon? And I go, oh, well, this is an invisible dragon that hovers above the ground. And you say, well, let's sprinkle some flour on there. Maybe the invisible dragon will leave some footprints. No. It's levitating. It's hovering above the ground, so it doesn't leave any footprints. And you say, well, maybe we'll get one of those heat detectors like they use for testing your body temperature for COVID symptoms by just pointing at your forehead. Maybe we could do that with our little temperature gun and see we detect the body heat of the dragon. You go, oh no, this is a cold-blooded dragon. It doesn't give off any body heat. And then you say, well, what about the fire? These are fire-breathing dragons. We can measure the fire. And you go, oh no, this is cold fire. It's a very special, unique cold fire. Anyway, you see where this is going. At some point, what's the difference between an invisible, levitating, cold-blooded, cold fire-breathing dragon and no dragon at all? And the answer is there's no difference. So there's no reason to believe it. And the fact that somebody has a vivid imagination and they can imagine three, five-dimensional beings from another dimension visiting Earth, okay, but if there's no evidence for it,
it's getting harder to get some evidence because can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear a lot of street traffic. Yeah, you have a lot of street traffic behind you.
Okay, I think it's nearby my house. I was saying that it's getting harder to get some evidence because the extraterrestrials were in the beginning on the moon, and then they went to Mars and Venus to Zeta Reticuli, and now they are placed on another dimension. We have to thank Mr. Elizondo and Ms. Leslie King to bring them back to the coast of the United States. But Mr. Shermer, I'd like to address the matter of the UAPs again. The matter that has certainly dominated the world of conspiracy theories. For the first time in over 50 years since Project Blue Book, in May 17, a U.S. Congress subcommittee held a public hearing on UAPs, or unidentified aerial phenomenon, for those who are not familiar with this term. And in last year, I presume, the DoD established a permanent UAP office at the Pentagon. Well, military officials insist that they do not know the origin of the nearly 400 incidents, but that they certainly do not belong to military powers such as Russia or China. The extraterrestrial hypothesis is also unlikely, as no satellite has confirmed the entry or any anomalous non-atmospheric object. Likewise, no one has detected these objects emerging from the ocean. However, most congressmen believe that these objects, or whatever they are, pose a threat to national security. All these doubts make the test difficult for skeptics like you and like us, who cannot simplistically dismiss a less orthodox hypothesis. What do you think of all of this?
Yeah, that's a problem. I think a lot of these people involved in this UAP affair don't know how to think critically about any claims. We have a set of tools in our toolkit of skepticism of, when somebody presents a claim to you, how do you respond? Well, the first question is let's see what the evidence is for it. And then what we're showing are these grainy videos and these blurry photographs that you can't really tell what it is. And then at that point is where the human imagination takes over and people go, oh, it's moving at 7,000 miles an hour, 20 times the speed of sound, and so on. And so, how do you know? It's just a blurry object moving on the screen. Like one of them, the most famous video is this so-called Tic Tac video. And what you see is this kind of blurry white object that is very probably just a jet moving away from the camera mounted on a jet. And that's the heat signature of the engines blasting away. Now, what you see in this video is that all of a sudden, this white object goes zoom. It just, well, in case of filming, it goes that way. And everybody's like, oh my God, look how fast it just turned right, and this would have killed the pilot because there's so many G-forces at that speed. And so somebody has some kind of, anti-gravitational, quantum force that, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But in fact, if you look at the video itself, up in the upper left-hand corner is this little thing that says zoom. And the zoom goes from 1 to 2. So at the moment, the object moves really fast. So all we're seeing is the camera zooming in on the object from 1 to 2, double the, the zoom. And so that makes the object double in size and move. But it's not moving anywhere. It's not increasing in size. It's not doing anything. It's just the camera effect. All of these videos have explanations like that. Now, most people don't like to hear this. They go, oh, come on, you can't possibly mean this is just an artifact of the cameras. Yes, I can. It's far more likely that it's that than that the Russians or Chinese somehow developed, hyper speed technology that we have no clue about the physics or engineering of this. That's not possible. In fact, it's impossible. No invention or discovery in the history of science and technology has ever come out of the blue like that. Everybody knows what everybody else is doing. And every invention that comes out of a previous invention that's just barely better, barely less developed than the one that you're just talking about. And, just think about the Manhattan Project, the most secret scientific technological project in history. And the Russians had the bomb within 4 years of our detonating one, right? They stole our secrets. Or you think about all the security and patent protection and intellectual property rights held by all the major tech companies. And yet they all rip each other off. They hire each other employees. They back engineer their products. And we all end up with smartphones and computers from all different companies that are all pretty much the same. Nobody can possibly get ahead that far. It would be as if the Russians or Chinese had stealth bombers and we were flying biplanes. I mean, this is not possible. That's not how the world works. That's not the world we live in. So, so we're asked with a kind of a what I call the what's more likely question, Hume's what's more likely question, or sort of a Bayesian way. What's more probable or improbable? And so you ask the three hypotheses on the table for UAPs, right? I wrote an article on this called Identifying the Unidentified, right? So there's ordinary terrestrial phenomenon. There's extraordinary terrestrial phenomenon like Russian or Chinese assets, and then extraordinary extraterrestrial aliens, right? So let me just give you what I think it's most likely to be from the UFO side themselves. That is, ufologists like Leslie Keane write that 90 to 95% of all UFO sightings can be explained as, and I quote, weather balloons, flares, sky lanterns, planes flying in formation, secret military aircraft, birds reflecting the sun, planes reflecting the sun, blimps, helicopters, the planet Venus or Mars, meteors or meteorites, space junk, satellites, swamp gas, spinning eddies, sundogs, ball lightning, ice crystals, reflected light off clouds, lights on the ground, or lights reflected on a cockpit window, temperature inversions, hole punch clouds, and the list goes on. So you see an object or you see a video and you ask, okay, what's most likely? That it's in that bin containing 95% of all sightings, or that it's one of the other two bins? It's some secret Russian or Chinese drone or aircraft, or it's aliens, right? It's 95% certain it's going to be in the bin of what we already know to be normal, ordinary terrestrial phenomenon.
I think that 5% of remains we're very optimistic, because I think it's less than 2-3%. I think that we can put the Occam's razor principle here, and say that those ordinary explanations are more feasible than the extraterrestrial one. Mick West, who was also interviewed by us, insists that that it's all about parallax effect, camera artifacts, or the glare from the engines of a distant aircraft, or simply a balloon, as shown in the Go Fest video. I think this is our and your best guess for all those objects, I think.
Yeah, I mean, they make a big deal about, oh, it showed no propulsion system. Yeah, Mylar balloons don't have propulsion systems. They just float on the air with the currents, right? That object's probably going 30 miles an hour, 20 miles an hour. It's just floating on the air. And it's just embarrassing to see these senators and congressmen putting these videos and photographs up, some of which is just obviously a balloon. It's like people are analyzing this. It's like, don't overthink it. It's a balloon. That's all it is. And if you're basing this entire new worldview that we've been visited by aliens on a balloon picture, that if that's the best evidence you have, that's not very good. And I should point out that some of these Navy pilots have said they see these UAPs every day. They're very common. And it's like, if that were true, what else would be true? Well, everyone walking around at the beach, passengers on commercial airliners, they all have these objects here, smartphones that have cameras on them. High resolution video and photography is available to everybody. There should be tens of thousands of pictures of these UAPs, and there's nothing other than these handful of grainy, blurry videos and photographs. It's just embarrassing how bad the evidence is for the claim that these things are real.
Okay, all right. Leo, do you have a question to Mr. Shermer?
Yeah, I do, Marco. Mr. Shermer, I don't know if you're aware, but recently a new documentary about Ariel School was released. As we know, this case involves about 60 children that claim to have seen an aircraft and two beings in the school backyard. And this case was investigated by John Mack, the Harvard psychiatrist. I would like you to talk a bit about the case and John Mack's approach.
Well, John Mack was a pretty gullible believer in alien abduction accounts that his clinical patients were recounting to him. We know that human imagination is quite broad, and that there is social contagion effects. People say they see something, and other people, say the same thing, and it kind of spreads through a group. Like with the miracle at Fatima, Portugal, in 1917, when a couple of girls said they saw something mysterious in the sky, and then there was this apparition of the Virgin Mary, and then there was this miracle of the sun dancing around the sky, and the claim is that the Earth wasn't doing anything; it was the sun actually moving dramatically around the sky. And this was purported to have been seen by tens of thousands of people in Fatima, Portugal. Okay, if this was true, wouldn't other people in nearby towns and cities have noticed something unusual happening in the sky? And yet there's not one account of that. Of course, there's no photography like that, a century ago, but it's easy to see how a story like that can spread through a group, a social contagion of a group. There's a lot of literature on this in social psychology and sociology about how these things happen. So, the school kids who say that they were visited by this alien craft, and of course there's no photos, there's just drawings of it, is not very compelling. And, when you have to reach into your psychiatric toolkit and conjure up ideas about, hidden memories that you pull out through hypnosis or through psychotherapy, and that's your evidence for being visited by extraterrestrials, that's not going to convince any scientist that that the greatest question ever, are we alone, has been answered.
Okay. Mr. Shermer, you recently watched a premiere of the long-awaited documentary Moment of Contact by filmmaker James Fox. What did you think of the film? Did the documentary make you have any doubts about the case? Or in other words, do you consider the possibility that something in Brazil may be covered up?
Well, okay, there's a couple different things there. First of all, yeah, the film was great. It's well produced. James Fox is a good film producer, but so is Oliver Stone in his fantasy about JFK being assassinated by everybody. The fact that the film is well produced doesn't mean anything. We still have to drill down and ask, what is the evidence for these stories? And the film is just nothing but a series of anecdotes. It's just story after story after story. Here's another talking head. Here's another talking head. Here's a blurry video. Here's another talking head. Here's a grainy photograph. Here's another talking head. In science, we need actual concrete evidence, right? So let me make an analogy, a cryptozoology analogy, that, the claim is that there are, bipedal primates that are non-human living somewhere in the world. In the hinterlands of Canada or North America, the Himalayas, Yeti, Bigfoot, whatever you want to call it. It could be true. It's 200,000 years ago, there were half a dozen or more bipedal primates living on Earth, hominids, and we're the last one standing. Neanderthals went extinct about 35,000 years ago. And there were those little hobbits in Indonesia, maybe 20,000 years ago, but no one has found anything since then. So they could be there, and we just have missed them. But after a century of looking, and there's still no evidence, scientists are just skeptical. And until you present a body, to name a new species in biology, you have to have a type specimen, an actual body. And then scientists will believe. And so, if you believe in Bigfoot, there's no reason to believe in Bigfoot. And I will believe if you show me a body, not a video of a guy in an ape suit, not a grainy photograph taken at 3 a.m. on a camping trip. That's just not going to do it. We actually have to have a body. So present me with a body of an alien or the spacecraft of an alien technology, and I'll believe. All scientists would believe. It's not that scientists are dogmatically closed-minded. They just have a high standard of evidence that's necessary because most claims that people make are not true.
Is that what you call negative evidence? Because the ufologists always present negative evidence, not a screw or a nail or something.
Right. Yes, that's right. It's here, if what the claim is being made is true, then other things should be true. We would expect that. And they're not. That is, where's the physical evidence for this? And, if you say, well, they covered it up, yeah, that's negative evidence. That is, you're saying that the fact that we have no evidence is proof that we have evidence. That's a illogical argument. You actually have to have proof. It reminds me of George W. Bush's, claim that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, so we have to invade. And then they didn't. And then, so the question Congress asked, well, where's the evidence? You said there was evidence. Where is it? Oh, well, Saddam Hussein moved the weapons of mass destruction. That's how we know they had them. No, sorry. You can't just say they're secret and they're invisible or they're hidden in a cave somewhere. That's not enough. You can't invade foreign countries based on non-existent evidence, right? And that's the same here. You can't just say the fact that we have no evidence of aliens means aliens are visiting us and they're super secret or they're invisible or the government's hiding them. That's not going to do it. It's just not how science works. You can believe it if you want, but no one else is going to believe it that has a critical thinking mind.
Okay, that's right. Mr. Shermer, João Marcelo has a question for you. He said that to this day he remains skeptical of the incident with Travis Walton. We're talking about classic cases. This is the master one. And Travis claimed to have suffered an alien abduction in 1975. This story is very well known. And he says that, let me see here. It is more than likely that the alleged abduction of Travis Walton was a well orchestrated and executed hoax. As far as passing the lie detector tests are concerned, the results are no longer admissible or accepted as evidence. What's your impression about the Travis Walton case?
I think he made it up, pure and simple. One of his childhood friends wrote me and said he just made all that up. He was always making stuff up like that in middle school, high school, and so on. I believe one of his fellow lumberjacks that he was out in the woods with has said that he made it up. He did not pass a lie detector test. In fact, he failed to pass a lie detector test. I was there on a TV show. That was a reality show on using the lie detector test for different stories, but he was one of the stories. And they put him through the lie detector test, and he failed. Now, he later said, "Oh, that wasn't fair. It wasn't done right." Yeah, whatever. The lie detector test is not reliable for sure. But you're the one that says you could pass a lie detector test and you didn't. So, you're out. You lied. Anyway, again, what's more likely? That people just make stuff up, which they do. People lie, they exaggerate, they tell fantastic stories all the time, every day, or that aliens have visited us. Well, again, if this is the best evidence you have nothing.
Okay, Leonardo, your turn.
Mr. Shermer, we know that many researchers mix their desires in their research, and some of them don't use the correct methodology to investigate, jumping to conclusions, and so on. Which are the common mistakes that you see in the ufology field today, and which UFO researchers do you consider reliable?
Well, Mick West is very reliable. He's a UFO researcher. But there aren't many. I'm on a member of this team called the Galileo Project with Avi Loeb, who's the head of the astronomy department at Harvard. And we are on a team. We have a team that's going to build these telescopes that will be all over the world. There's hundreds of them. And we're going to find out what the heck these UAPs are. And I could just about guarantee you with 99.9% certainty, they're all going to be weather balloons and mylar balloons and camera effects and birds and planes and all ordinary terrestrial phenomena. Now, he thinks it could be that 1% could be something else. Okay, well, let's see what happens, right? So I'm not against the idea. And Avi's he's a world-class scientist. He knows what the standards are in science, and he's not going to convince his colleagues until he has better evidence than what he's presented. And so we'll see. I support the effort. Yeah, let's get to the bottom of this thing and set up some really good cameras and see what we get. And that the first prototype is going to be operating at the end of this summer, and then if the funding comes through, we'll have hundreds of them all over the world. And so we'll see. I would bet my house that I'm sitting in that it's not going to be Russian or Chinese super technology or aliens, but we'll see.
Okay, I was hoping to convince you, Mr. Shermer, that UAPs, the British royal families and cats, were extraterrestrial in origin, but it's hard. It's very hard. I will address you another question from our colleague, João Marcelo. He asks you, why the aliens, once the aliens seems to be so advanced in areas like physics and materials, but they are backward in biology because they have to kidnap thousands of people and kill thousands of cows. I think João Marcelo wants to hear from you about abductions and animal mutilations. Once again, we don't have any proof of this. What do you think about this lack of, how can I say, they are so advanced in one sense and so backyard in another. Did you understand what I mean? The physics and the science are so advanced, but in genetics they are absolutely.
Yeah, are we to believe that aliens have traversed the vast distances of interstellar space only to mutilate some of our cows and to have sex with some of our people at 3 a.m. in their bedrooms? Really? That's it? Or leave crop circles with clever designs? That just is so improbable. It's ridiculous. And also, the aliens are always portrayed as very human-like. I mean, whatever aliens are going to be like, if we ever do encounter them, it's very, very unlikely that they're going to be bipedal primates, right? How many bipedal primates have evolved on Earth? Just a couple, out of the billions and billions of species that have evolved on Earth, only a handful, ended up being bipedal primates. And we're the only ones with tools and technology. And so, 1 out of billions, right? So the chances of this happening on some other planet, in parallel with our own technology, that they would be close to us in development, is pretty much zero. So whatever they're going to be like, it would be hard to even recognize them. I mean, it'd be like something like an octopus or, a dolphin or something completely different. So the stories were told by people who claim they've encountered aliens. The stories are very human-like. They're very anthropocentric, the kind of stuff that people come up with in their dreams and imaginations. That's just not evidence that scientists can accept.
Okay, Leonardo.
So, Mr. Shermer, recently the geneticist Gary Nolan showed us his research regarding isotopic analysis about UFO material, and he claims that a sample from Ubatuba, a city from the Brazilian coast, indicated different isotopic results. But he hasn't revealed all the studies yet because it demands more analysis. What do you think of this research in particular and about metamaterials?
Well, sure. If you've got something, then publish it in a peer-reviewed scientific journal. In this case, it's probably a materials or technological or engineering journal, and let the experts look at it. You can't hide your evidence. I got an email this morning from somebody who's got a high-resolution actual film of a unmistakable UFO. It's not grainy, it's not blurry, because this person was listening to me say these kinds of things. And it's like, all right, send me a link. Oh, no, I can't post it online. No, this is top secret. And it's like, all right. You can't keep your evidence secret, that. And when people say that, to me, it's an indication that they actually don't have anything. If they had it, share it with the world. Come on, let's see it. It's very, very likely to be, something terrestrial. Even if it's unusual, that's entirely possible that, that there's some materials that some labs have developed that most people don't know about, but it's still terrestrial. But again, if until other people see it, other engineers, labs, testing agencies that do this sort of thing, and then publish it in a peer-reviewed journal, feature it on major media sources, and so on. I have $1,000 bet. You go to my skeptic column on Substack, and I have $1,000 challenge. I'll put up $1,000 if you'll put up $1,000 to see that disclosure will be made by December 31st, 2023. So a year and a half from now. No one's taking me up on this. I can't even get any of these UFO people to respond. they're all on social media and talking heads on TV shows going, oh, disclosure is just around the corner. We're going to find out that we've been visited by aliens this year. It's going to happen. We're months away. It's on the verge. This is going to be the biggest breakthrough of all time, and it's happening now. To which I say, all right, I got $1,000 that says I think you're wrong. Are you at least $1,000 confident in your claim? And the answer appears to be no, they're not, because they don't even respond. They're not confident. They don't actually believe this. It's a bit of a grift to get media attention and who knows what else, sell books or something. It's embarrassing. Come on, if you really believe that, disclosure is right around the corner, we've been visited, we're about to find out, well, put your money up and let's see. And the answer appears to be they don't actually believe that.
All right. We are talking about present visitation. What about the past? Do you totally rule out the possibility that there have been any visit by extraterrestrials in the past? If so, Mr. Shermer, what kind of evidence would you make you change your mind? By the way, I like your acronym, ECRE, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. I think it applies in this case, don't you think?
Yes, that's exactly right. This is, of course, Carl Sagan made that line famous in Cosmos, but somebody else actually had already articulated it a few years before him. And then before them, of course, is David Hume. This was Hume's principle, proportionality. You should proportion your confidence in a belief to the evidence. And this applies across the board to any claim. In terms of the ancient aliens hypothesis, this show drives me crazy. It's a huge hit in America, Ancient Aliens on the History Channel. And it's all based, 100% of it is based on what they consider to be anomalies in archaeology and art history and prehistory and so forth. And pretty much they have no idea what they're talking about. And they almost never feature anybody who does know what they're talking about. So I've pushed them on this point many times. Like, for example, there they are on Easter Island, and they're looking at the famous Easter Island statues, and they're going, no one has any idea how these got here or how they moved them or carved them. So, we think it could be aliens. Well, why don't you have Joanne Van Tilburg on your show from UCLA? She's been going to Easter Island every year for 40 years. She's written books about Easter Island statues. She knows exactly how they were carved, how they were moved, and when, and so on. There's a massive scholarship on Easter Island, and these guys are just irresponsible. They just say, we have no idea. Well, you should do your homework. You have these researchers that your team hires to write these scripts for you to read. Why don't you have them interview somebody who actually knows what they're doing? All you have to do is go to Wikipedia. You don't have to be any more scholarly than Wikipedia. And it's right there. The world's leading expert, Joanne Van Tilburg, UCLA. She has an email address. I email her periodically about archaeological questions, and she responds. Just email her and say, we're doing a show on Easter Island. We think it was the aliens. What do you think? Can we interview? They'll never do that. Never. Because then the gig is up, right? The show is over. Because then it's obvious to viewers, actually, every one of these mysteries they present. And basically, they just travel around the world and stand in front of archaeological sites and say, no one has any idea how this happened, therefore aliens. The gig is up because we do know how most of those so-called mysteries were built. And even if we don't, even if it's, there's still research to be done, that's how science works, right? Göbekli Tepe is another one. Graham Hancock loves this site in Turkey. It's 11,000 years old. It's truly mysterious. How did hunter-gatherers build monumental architecture like that? I thought that wasn't possible until you had massive populations and some kind of bureaucracy to run it and so on. You need a civilization to do that. How do they do that? Well, we have some idea, but it's still a mystery, right? But why say it was the aliens? But Graham Hancock doesn't say that. He says it was a super advanced, technologically advanced civilization from tens of thousands of years ago, for which there is zero evidence, right? Where's their tools? Where's their trash? Where's the homes that they lived in tens of thousands of years ago? And there's nothing. Nothing, right? When archaeologists dig up a site, mostly what they find is just trash. They find the bones of the animals they ate. They found the tools they used to butcher the animals. They find their fire hearths, which you can carbon date the charcoal to see how long ago the fires burned. They lived in. It's boring stuff. It's just life, right? And there's nothing like that for these, this claim.
Where are the Vimanas that flew around the Indian skies? Where are the Vimanas? I always ask me.
Yeah.
Mr. Sherman, NASA recently stated, quote, "There is no evidence that UAPs are extraterrestrial in origin." But the limited number of observations of UAPs currently makes it difficult to draw scientific conclusions about the nature of such events. Do you expect that in a near future, the scientific community will be able to apply the tools of science to shed light on the nature and origin of the unidentified aerophenomena?
Well, yes, if the right people are doing it, that is to say, people that know what they're talking about, that understand how cameras work, and so on. I suspect people in the Pentagon know perfectly well what these UAP videos are. So it's interesting, though, that in the recent congressional hearings, we've heard things like, "They're not ours." Whatever it is, they're not ours. All right, so that very probably rules out ordinary terrestrial phenomena. So what's left? Well, it's aliens, but they also said it's not aliens. Okay, then what are we talking about? Really, we're just talking about videos and photographs that are just, they're so unclear. It's hard to say exactly what it is. And that's just, again, I'll just keep repeating myself. That's not evidence. You can't construct a new scientific theory based on such poor evidence.
Okay. You are called by some people the king of skeptics, but you still had a moment when your skepticism was shaken. Could you tell us about the episode involving the radio that belonged to your wife's and how it influenced your view of the supernatural and paranormal world?
The radio.
The famous Philips radio.
It came on the other day. It was playing music from a Christian rock station. I thought maybe it was a sign from God.
Yeah.
Tell
us about this episode, please.
Yeah, I will do that. I'm trying to see if I get it to come on again here. Let me see. I'll just do the. Yeah, no, it's not. Yeah, it's not coming on anyway. Oh well, so my wife's from Germany, and when she moved out to California to be with me, she shipped a bunch of her stuff, including this radio that belonged to her grandfather. She was raised by a single mom and her grandfather. So this always had special meaning for her. So before she got here, I tried to get it to work, and I couldn't get it to work. Put new batteries in and fiddling around with the electronics in the back and so on. Nothing happened. So it was just dead, and I threw it in the back of a drawer in my back room at my house. And the day we got married at the house with just a few friends and family, my own, because hers are in Germany still. All of a sudden music started piping into the house from the back bedroom. And I'm like, what is that? I don't have a stereo back there. Maybe it's my iPhone or my laptop or something. I go back there and nope, it's not that. Maybe it's the neighbors. Nope, not that. And then all of a sudden I hear the music coming from out of the drawer, and I open the drawer and here's this radio, and it's playing music, and it's perfectly tuned into a radio station playing. It wasn't Christian rock. It was some other kind of love station playing love romantic music, that sort of thing. So that was pretty freaky, right? I mean, so my wife and I, we're both atheists. We don't think, grandpa's on the other side beaming in radio messages to us, but it was quite anomalous and quite strange. Of course, I wrote about this in Scientific American, and people sent me lots of natural explanations. The solenoids in the radio had a little bit of electric charge to them or whatever it was. I forget now. And that, came on briefly. Okay, maybe, that's right. But it's the timing of it, right? So to me, anomalies like that are interesting. I enjoy them very much. Let's not go crazy and construct a whole new worldview of, people on the other side after death or reaching into our world through radios. I think we can't go that far, but we can say anomalous, weird things happen, because they do. And people, after I published that, wrote me their own stories, hundreds of them, and they were really quite interesting. And then enjoy the mystery, right? I mean, we can't explain everything. And who knows, maybe 500 years from now, we'll know something that you and I can't even conceive of as being real. Just like people 500 years ago from now could not conceive of the internet or smartphones or jet planes or rockets or whatever. So, I think it's good to keep an open mind in that sense. So I'm not dogmatically skeptical.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you very much. Mr. Shermer, we are approaching the end of this live, and once again, I would like to thank you for your time and say that we will be very happy to have you with us on another occasion. Please feel free to make your final comments, your final words, and share your social media, your works, your books with our audience.
Okay. Well, first of all, you can go to skeptic.com and get the latest issue. Subscribe to Skeptic Magazine. We are a quarterly publication. It's a science magazine. And you can check out my podcast at The Michael Shermer Show. And, of course, my books are on Amazon and whatnot. So, yeah, check it out. Skeptic.com is our site. And, we want to know what's true, not what we want to be true, but what's actually true. And we have the tools to figure that out, science and reason and rationality. So let's apply them everywhere we can.
Okay. Thank you very much. Muito obrigado a todos. Obrigado, Leonardo. Obrigado, João Marcelo. Thank you, Mr. Shermer.
Okay.
Keep up the good work.
Okay, will do. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.